Welcome to the Breaking 90 podcast, where we talk about all things sustainable fat loss. We take people on 90-day journeys to creating fat loss forever. Thanks for listening. I hope you enjoy the episode. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Breaking 90 podcast. I'm your host, Alex Harriman, here with my co-host, Kelly Sarlo. We are two of the coaches of Breaking 90 Fitness. Thanks for being here with us. I hope you enjoyed today's episode.
Hi, Alex.
Hi, how are you?
Good. How are you?
Good.
Oh, I like this. A little matchy. Cheers.
I did it on purpose.
Oh, thank you. What's going on in your world?
Um, we are right in the depth of sports season now with
Mm.
hockey and jiu-jitsu for Emerson, and it's as much as like I guess it's kind of like school as a kid. By the time the end of the school year comes, you're so ready for summer, but by the time the end of summer comes, you're so ready for school.
Mhm.
And I feel kind of the same way. Like I'm super excited right now to be like watching all of the sports and like doing that. But I know by the end of the year, I'll be like, oh man, I can't wait till I don't have to get up at 7 o'clock every Saturday.
Oh, wow. Okay. Like on ice at 7?
Some days it's every Saturday and Sunday, and it ranges from 7 till 10. So depending on what time the practice is, they kind of just randomize them. So some weeks it'll be like 7 on Saturday, 7 on Sunday. Yeah. So it's fun right now, and he's really enjoying it, and he's working hard. So that's cool.
Yeah, that's wonderful.
Yeah.
Happy for you guys.
Thanks.
What do you have for us today?
Um, we're coming into a particularly difficult season with the holidays coming around. This is something we try to talk about every year, because it's always relevant. I know similar to summertime, where our schedules are going to change. We might have time off work. We might have more guests. We might have more snacks and treats and big meals and festivities and probably drinks. So I just want to walk through some tips, tricks, and strategies of how we navigate this, and how we can come out of this holiday season ahead.
Ahead. Okay, cool. So you're defining a goal.
Well, ahead is loose too, though, right? Because when people hear me say that, I think right out of the gate, they're going to be like, I'm going to come out of the holidays better than I am right now.
Mm-hmm.
But it doesn't have to mean that. It could
Mm-hmm.
mean I'm going to come out of the holidays better than I typically would or would have every other year. And
Mm-hmm.
that's still ahead in your own journey. So, listeners, factor that in as you take this advice, that ahead doesn't necessarily mean better than you are right now. Like, think of yourself as a professional athlete coming to the end of your sports season. You're in peak physical condition. You're absolute best at your sport you've ever been. You're not likely going to keep getting better through the off season. You're going to have a slight regression in the sport you play. So maybe basketball, you're going to get a little bit worse at basketball, but it's an opportunity to recover, get stronger, get faster, work on some other things that are going to pay off in your game. You come into the next season slightly lower than you finished this season, but now you've put yourself in a place to build up to a higher point by the end of the next season.
Love it. Okay.
Sidetracked.
Help us. No, not sidetracked. Yeah, I think you do a beautiful job at helping people understand their current situation and help them define something that is abstract,
Hmm.
right? And for so many people, they come into the program for Breaking 90 because things are too abstract for them, right? They need direction. So you creating that framework is very helpful.
Well, thank you.
You're so very welcome. You did an excellent job taking that compliment. I'll move on along swiftly because I know you can't do more than one.
Okay. Okay, so I want to start this episode by saying that your success won't be determined by how far you fall off track. Your success will be determined by how quickly you get back on track.
Cool.
So sit with that for a moment and think about what that really means. That doesn't It doesn't mean that I'm encouraging you to fall off track or giving you the green light to binge or have a blowout, but it also doesn't mean that you should punish yourself for that and that you should feel guilty for that because it's normal and it happens. What we don't want to happen is you to throw in the all or nothing towel, say, screw it, I'll wait till January 1st. Screw it, I'll wait till Monday. Screw it, I'll wait till after these three big meals. There's always time and place between festivities, between events, between obstacles where we can be on track. And even though it might feel minuscule, it can have a massive payoff.
Yeah. I really like describing what you're talking about from eagle and mouse perspective, meaning that if you are in the day to day details, right? Meaning, okay, we have three Thanksgiving dinners or three Christmas dinners, right? That mouse perspective is focused on what's right in front of you. You can only see so much. But if we kind of pan out and get that eagle perspective of the whole year, it illustrates what you're talking about. Your 3 days of indulgence is not going to determine your entire year success. Like you said, it's the way that you bounce back, right? So if you're back into that mouse energy of, okay, I'm here, I've got three, family dinners between mine and maybe in-laws. How am I going to bounce back either in the morning, the next day, starting on Monday, etc., so that the whole picture is not impacted in a huge way. And
Mm.
understanding that 3 days really isn't going to impact the whole year all that much.
As long as you don't have those 3 days
Preach.
so consistently that it isn't 3 days.
Yeah, exactly.
Um, we encourage our clients to be 80% consistent, meaning like 6 days out of the month or 60 days out of the year. You can kind of have these days that aren't in line with your goals. They're not blowouts, they're just days that aren't completely in line with our goals. If the majority of those fall in a couple months, or if they're evenly spread out throughout the year, it doesn't really make a difference. Where it does make a difference is the way the scale's gonna act during that period of time. So as you head into this holiday season, if you know you're gonna have a larger portion of your off days or off target days, expect the scale to go haywire and not show you what you want to see. And if you're working with us, you know we talk about this often. We don't want you to avoid the scale. We want you to understand the scale. We want you to step on it and understand how water retention works and why that scale is going up and why it's not a reflection of your bad behavior. But if you're not working with us and you know that's going to fuck your whole holiday up, then don't step on it.
Mm.
But you should really just come work with us so we can teach you how that looks.
It's, you joke, but it's true because even with clients who are making phenomenal progress, and I've just sat down yesterday with two clients who have done or lost just over 10 pounds in less than 30 days. Pardon me, 40, who are saying, oh, it's too slow. Oh, the scale isn't doing what I want to. And when they see the big picture rather than this morning's weigh in, speaking of eagle and mouse perspective, they're like, oh, I'm doing great.
Mhm.
It's like, yes, the day itself is a lot to process if you're just looking at a number and not trying to understand the scale,
Totally.
right?
Just a quick side note and reference here. So we get our clients to step on the scale most days. We get them to paint it out on a graph that shows the highs, the lows, and everything in between. And then we look at a median or a trend line of what's happening. If you, as the client, only ever saw day one and day 90, you'd be like, oh, sweet, I lost 15 pounds, I lost 14 pounds, I lost 16 pounds, whatever it might be. You'd be like, that's great. But you don't. You see all the ups and downs in between, and we want you to because we really, really want you to understand why some days it spikes up, why some days it whooshes down. And that's a completely normal part. Weight loss is never, ever, ever linear. Day one to day 90 looks linear, but there are a ton of spikes and whooshes in between those 2 days.
Hmm. Good. Okay.
So I want to circle back then to what I said at the beginning. When we talk about coming out ahead, you need to define what that looks like for you headed into this holiday season. You need to do it before the holiday season hits. This is the same as setting your intentions and goals before the day starts. Because if we do it once the day starts, other priorities push things out of the way. We start to change the way we think. We start to focus on what's directly in front of us. Um, I want you to sit down now before the chaos hits and say, what does it look like for me to come out ahead? Do I normally handle holidays pretty well, or do I normally go way off track during the holidays? If you are the type of person that does go way off track, then we're not going to set a goal of making a bunch of progress through the holidays. We're going to set a goal of not allowing ourselves to fall as far off track as we typically do. We're going to set some, go ahead.
Okay, I want to interject because I really like what you're saying, and I just want to bring in a good example. For a lot of people, they're going to sit here and be like, I typically gain 5 pounds over the holidays. I don't think that the scale is a good form of determining what you
No.
are doing because you're not accounting for the fact that water retention is happening. There is a good to fair chance that you're not eating in excess of 30,000 calories over the weekend, right? So if we can actually look at what are my behaviors,
Mhm.
right? How do I conduct myself around food in the holidays? And what does movement look like, right? Because that typically falls off too. Can we look at actionable behaviors, right? That we can actually say, okay, how do I want this to look so that I'm further ahead rather than focusing on the scale?
And if you were working with us and we were doing a good job of graphing your trend lines and seeing your averages and medians and your weight, the scale can be a reference point. But if you're just at home being like, oh, I gained 5 pounds because I stepped on the scale and it's 5 pounds heavier, well, that's just not true.
Yeah.
That's just not true. You need if you stepped on that scale every day for 2 weeks after you got back on track and it was still 5 pounds higher, then you probably gained 5 pounds.
Okay. Good.
Yeah, you're gonna retain a bunch of water, guys, because alcohol
Yeah.
is gonna make you retain water. The sleep schedule change is gonna make you retain water. The salty foods are gonna make you retain water. The desserts, the high carb meals, all of this is gonna make you retain water, and that's not a bad thing. I'm not at all telling you to avoid these things, um, but they're gonna make you retain water.
Mm,
So if your scale doesn't go up during this period of time, like I'd be shocked.
mm. That's fair.
Yeah. So love it. So then what should they set as a goal? If they're not going to use the scale as a goal, how would you suggest they set a goal for themselves?
Yeah. So one of the first things that comes to mind is more or less a bare ass minimum of, okay, if I've got 3 days of holidays, if we're running with this example, I'm going to make sure that I have a serving of protein and vegetables with every meal. Right. So I'm not talking about cutting things out. I'm not talking about avoiding anything. I'm making sure that no matter what I'm choosing to include, I'm going to crowd in my protein and my vegetables so that I have something of a constant that's contributing to my health, my nutrition, my energy, etc.
Love it. Keep it
Okay.
simple, stupid.
Yeah. Like that. Are we going back and forth?
No, it wasn't calling you stupid.
Thank you for clarifying.
Um, I would say I would say a really fun thing to do is movement breaks during the holidays if you have time off, because you can get the whole family or party or group or whoever's with you involved. Or you can do it alone, and that's cool too, because sometimes that's like the best alone time.
Yeah.
Um, but like setting specific movement breaks targets, make it fun. After each meal, I'm going to get a 10-minute walk, or before bed every night, I'm going to do 10 minutes of mobility work, or things like little, I'm talking like little things like this when we talk about movement breaks, because this season is probably going to throw your normal plan for a curve, and you're going to maybe struggle to get your 40 minutes at the gym that you typically do. Maybe you won't. And that's okay too, because it's adding these little 10-minute movement breaks isn't going to hinder your progress. It's only going to add to your progress. So this is like, if you have more time or a different schedule right now, or you're headed into that, consider this as a way to not get into the all or nothing thinking, where it's like, ah, crap, I can't do my workouts, so I'll just focus on nutrition, because there's still a lot of opportunities for movement. Maybe we're not going to get stronger. Maybe we're not going to get faster at swimming because we're not getting out to the pool, things like that. But we can still do something, and something's always better than nothing.
Yeah, I love that. I'm gonna almost double up on my first one. I'm just gonna word it in a little bit of a different way. You've mentioned before a great tip being that you challenge yourself that if you're gonna have a treat, you also have to have a serving of vegetables or fruit. Depending on what people are going for, we just typically encourage more veggies than fruit. So I think about, if I'm going to be up late or later than usual, and you see the sugar pie, and you're like, oh, I'm just going to have another little tiny serving, and we're going to couple it with a fistful of vegetables at that point, and you can either challenge yourself to eat it beforehand so that it makes automatically your portion smaller because you're a little more full, or you have to fit those vegetables in after you eat the sugar pie, and so you're making sure you have room for both of them. I thought that was a brilliant idea of just kind of like pairing or piggybacking, pardon me, the vegetables with any kind of treat you're giving yourself.
It also makes it less appealing because it's like having a piece of pie is probably always appealing, regardless of the time of day. But you're like, oh, but I really don't want to eat vegetables right now before bed. So how bad do I want this?
Yes, I
You
love it.
actually have to sit down, have the conscious conversation and decision-making process with yourself to say, is it important enough to me that I'm willing to also do that?
Yeah, love it.
Okay, I'm gonna say drink shitloads of water. Like this is a perfect opportunity to increase your water intake because you're probably gonna have more access to the bathroom, more time off, even at work. Like, let's be honest, during this time of year, a lot of people have less going on at work. That's not everybody. I know some of you are getting into your busiest season, and I'm sorry, your job probably sucks if that's the case. But for most of us, it's like a lot less serious work is happening. So you could take an extra washroom break. So increase your water intake. It's going to automatically stop you from having additional calories in other areas. It's going to force you to move more because you got to get to that bathroom. And it's going to aid in digestion, and it's going to also help with that water retention flush so that we're not seeing as drastic of spikes on the scale.
Cool. I will throw in really be mindful of your sleep and prioritizing it. I know that sometimes with holidays, it's kind of assumed that we are having later nights because we're visiting family, people are, company is at our house and whatnot. Prioritizing sleep, even if you're going to bed later, kind of realizing, do I have time to sleep in and still get the amount of sleep that I need? Reason being, when we are deprived of sleep, we tend to have more cravings. We tend to have poor cognitive function the next day, which means that we're making impulse choices. And with a whole ton of leftovers, especially that sugar pie in the fridge, we don't necessarily walk ourselves through that decision making process. We're making quicker decisions that aren't necessarily in our best interest.
On that note, it's really, really hard for your bodies to adjust to weird sleep schedules. It's why shift work is so hard on people's bodies. Try to keep your sleep schedule as consistent as possible. And I know it's not going to be perfect, and I'm not saying this with the intentions of it being perfect, but the drastic swings from day to day or weekday to weekend are really hard for your body to optimize that sleep. So even if you're getting 8 hours a night, but it's like drastically different 8 hour blocks, that's not going to pay off nearly as well as somebody who can nail down a similar bedtime routine each most nights. Like don't once again, don't stress over those one-offs, but if you can make those even 15 minutes closer together, it'll pay off for sure.
Cool. This might be a little controversial, but if you're doing any of the hosting and you know you're going to get stuck with a lot of leftovers, if you are someone who saves your takeout containers and has lots of like giveaway Tupperware, I would highly recommend packaging up meals and sending your guests home with them so that you're minimizing the amount of leftovers that are not necessarily contributing to your goals the next day when you're desiring to get back on track.
Yeah, that's a great point. And if we look at the things that most busy women are struggling with in their nutrition, it's probably getting enough protein, getting enough fruits and vegetables. And so this is a really good opportunity to make extra protein and vegetables and keep those at home, right? Like send away the desserts that you don't need. Keep a couple for yourself, send the rest of the desserts away. Keep some of the other more rich foods for yourself, send the rest away. Make extra turkey and keep it. Make
Mhm.
extra vegetables and keep it. Those are really freaking easy meal prep ideas. That turkey is going to last you several days. You can even freeze some of it. And like it's so high in protein. So don't send away the turkey.
I like that. It's good.
Yeah, that's I think that's good for tips. I just want you guys to really take that conscious sit down and look at what you've got coming up and be realistic headed into it. I think that's the biggest error we see people making is they are kicking ass right now. They head into a tough time of year. They don't have a realistic chat with themselves. They expect themselves to keep kicking ass. They fall off track or they think they fall off track because they're not doing everything they were in November. They get frustrated, they get disappointed, they throw in the towel till January 1st. So if we can reestablish those bare ass minimums, and if you're unsure how to do that, go listen to our podcast episode on bare ass minimums. If we can reestablish those bare ass minimums, if we can reestablish what our schedule needs to look like and our expectations through this holiday season, we will come out ahead.
Mm, It's wonderful. I think you've done tons for listeners today. Do you have more tips, even though the whole podcast was tips?
It was kind of in line with what I was gonna say. There's just like make lots of vegetables, guys. If you're in control, even if you're not in control, if you're going to a potluck or a friend's house, they're never gonna be upset that you brought a squash casserole or
Mm-hmm.
you brought some green beans and you're
Mm-hmm.
just like, hey, I had this really great recipe. I wanted to contribute to the meal. If we can control how much access we have to vegetables, we don't have to go hungry. We don't have to deprive ourselves. We shouldn't anyways, but we can pile on the vegetables to whatever we're eating and not feel like you're in a state of restriction because you're going to go to some people's houses and they're not going to make vegetables or they're going to have very little. They might have a Caesar salad and everybody gets one little bowl and it's like, oh, great. I wasn't expecting that. But if you can control the vegetables, you can control how much you can eat essentially, because you can eat as many vegetables as you want realistically.
Awesome. This is great. I hope people feel very supported and optimistic about their holidays.
Absolutely. And if you know what I'm gonna say actually, if you know you're going to struggle with the holidays, um reach out to us. If you're thinking about joining our program in January, join now because we we see this all the time. People are like, "Yeah, January 1st, I'm in. I'm all in." And what you're going to do is you're going to give yourself the green light to sabotage yourself until January 1st. You're going to be starting from a setback. We're going to make a lot of fast progress, but we could have made a lot more if you started now. So, what I want you to do is reach out to us, and what we'll do is we'll include the remainder of December on your 90-day program. And so instead of signing up for 90 days, if you sign up on December 1st, we'll give you 121 days for the same price. And what this is going to do is this is even if we don't focus on making progress through December, it's going to stop you from sabotaging yourself. And I promise your actual 90 days starting January 1st is going to be a lot better as a result.
That's amazing. And I will say too, if you reach out to any of our clients, not one of them has mentioned that they didn't enjoy their own holidays during the program. They have learned to love and incorporate all the foods that they walked into the program loving, that they previously considered a problem, and learned that it is actually not a problem at all.
Love that.
Thanks for your generosity. That's fun.
It's my holiday gift.
I love it. Awesome.
Okay,
Thanks for
thanks,
today.
guys. Remember, wherever you're listening, do us a massive favor. Just take a quick screenshot right now, share it to Instagram, and tag us in it so that we can see you listen. We always appreciate that. Hope you guys enjoyed today's episode. Have a great day and enjoy your holidays.